So since we're here for climate, I want to ask about specifically a Mars initiative, and it's under, as I understand it, it's the Sustainable Generation Plan. Tell us what that plan is and what it's meant to do.
Sure. Well, that's a plan that we've been enacting for many years now. It's $1 billion commitment to addressing everything from climate change to our supply chain and really seeking to uplift farmers around the world. We have a commitment to improve 1 million farmers' lives. As a food company, we rely on smallholder farms for our business. And I'm here at Climate Week this week because really it's the epicenter of the conversation. And it's a conversation that is serious, that is significant, that's a threat to our business if not addressed. And we're really seeking to drive systemic change and transformational change in relationship to an issue that has been important but not been taken seriously at the level that it needs to be to enable the future that we want and need.
So give us some examples specifically of how sustainability interacts with Mars. For example, you mentioned farmers. There have been issues about where cocoa gets raised, for example. How do you address that? And also we have things like packaging of your Snickers bars or your Mars bars.
Sure. Well, there's a range of issues for sure that face the planet, from plastics to how raw ingredients are grown. And so when it comes to something like cocoa, which is grown by very smallholder farms around the world, it really means rolling up our sleeves, getting on the ground, trying to understand what are the challenges that they face to driving a sustainable income for themselves, not to mention producing what they're growing in a sustainable fashion. And it really takes a partnership across a multiplicity of actors to drive change. And that's what we're endeavoring to do. And essentially, I would say that yes, I'll leave it at that.
Well, you mentioned $1 billion is being invested. How do you measure progress? I mean, how do you get interim reports to say, yes, we're on target, or we have to make some adjustments?
Well, the science now exists to essentially look into what's transpiring on the ground. And so we're committed to doing that. And say, for example, take deforestation. We now can put GPS locators on the ground to ensure that we know that our cocoa is not contributing to deforestation.
Fascinating. So talk to us generally about the food business and the pet business, because you're in both businesses, really. In fact, pets is growing quite substantially, isn't it?
It is. It's a significant part of our business and growing, yes, indeed.
Is it more than the food at this point?
It's a larger segment, yes.
And which one is growing faster?
Well, the two are essentially very strong businesses. We've branched from pet food into Petcare, as you're alluding to. We're now the largest employer of vets in the country and around the world. And yet our confectionery business actually remains very strong. There's still lots of growth to be had there, both domestically in the U.S. and around the world.
Now, we've had some reports from some of the big publicly traded companies that there are problems with global brands, that in fact there's a move toward more local brands, artisanal brands. Are you seeing any of that, or do your global brands hold up pretty well?
Well, I think certainly there's a large disruption happening in the food industry and in all industries in terms of small players coming into the marketplace. But we find ourselves positioned actually very strongly with the brands that we have, with the portfolio that we have, with the price points that we play across, and with the innovation that we're bringing to market.
When you mentioned disruption, what about technology? And I mean, one example, for example, is online buying of foodstuffs. How has that affected Mars's business?
Well, digital is a huge opportunity, and B2C is a huge opportunity. It's something that we're investing a significant amount of resources in, and actually growing very dramatically online with around the world. So it's about pivoting, it's about investing, it's about bringing in new talent, it's about evolving new business models, and then testing those and scaling them when they work.
You have a particular viewpoint into the consumer, whether the United States consumer or the global consumer. How's the consumer holding up in the United States? Let's start there.
Well, I think you're alluding to the ambiguity that perhaps exists around the world, driven by various issues like the Chinese-American trade war, like Brexit, etc. Ambiguity is certainly not good for business. It's not good for consumers. But we see still consumer confidence being strong. But is it challenged? I think it would be fair to say that yes, it is.
That ambiguity, uncertainty is affecting some CEOs in their investment decisions, particularly capital investment, things like that. Now, you're a private company, so you may be in a somewhat different position to a public company, but is it affecting your investment decisions?
No, I would say not. I mean, as a privately held company, we're able to think really, we say in generations as opposed to in quarters, and so we really look to the long game. And no, we continue to absolutely invest in our business, putting money into capital, putting money into new geographies, putting money into new innovations.
What do you make of some of the plans President Trump has had, and now some Democrats who are running for president have, about growth, promoting growth in this country? We had the tax cuts back at the end of 2017. Was that a good thing for your business? Was it a good thing for business overall, do you think?
Well, I think it is certainly good for business, particularly in the case of ourselves, when we're able to take that money and reinvest it in the business. And that's what we have done, and that's what we focused that benefit on, is reinvesting in our business and just positioning it stronger for the future.
We're well into this growth cycle, and some people are concerned just that it's so long. What do you think the prospects for future growth for the United States is? And for that matter, let's take the flip side, recession.
Well, I would say that ending the trade war is one of the top imperatives to ensure that growth does not slow down. We're a big believer in free trade. We have a global business. We operate in 80 countries around the world, and free trade is something that we firmly believe in and have seen the benefits of, both for ourselves as a business as well as for consumers and for people around the world in general.